Hello everyone and welcome to Blood Waves, a third-person wave-based zombie shooter. And I feel a little bad about this one because I really wanted to enjoy it, and I gave it several tries. Each time I sat down and said, okay, I get it now. I'm gonna sit down and make it through this time, but it never worked out. So Blood Waves is simplicity for the sake of simplicity. You play the game in one single room with one single character, and you have a choice between the same upgrades every time you play. There doesn't seem to be a difference between the waves each time you play. The same kinds of zombies seem to spawn, and they spawn in the same numbers, and the room does not change in any fashion. The only thing that may change is your tactics when you retry the game. But usually it's because you died from a death you didn't expect, rather than, oh, this method may be better. So the game always starts out the same. We start with a machete and a pistol. The machete isn't actually a bad weapon at all. It's less effective than the pistol, especially at long range, obviously, because it's not like we can throw the machete or anything, but if you target the enemy from just the right angle and swing it at just the right time, you can get a whole bunch of zombies at once with it. So we have a few defensive capabilities in addition to our two basic offensive ones right now. We can roll, which gives us some much needed invincibility frames. If we roll away from a zombie, we're pretty much guaranteed to get away unless we're backed into a corner because of all those invincibility frames. We can also sprint. Sprint away from zombies and then, get a better angle on them with our gun or machete. You can see a stamina meter underneath our health. That determines how much we can sprint, use our melee weapon, or, dodge roll. Each wave, when completed, gives us an upgrade point and a skill point. Upgrade points can be used to upgrade our weaponry or traps, and skill points can be used to upgrade our character. We're going to upgrade our character first. Going to give her more health. Getting more health and faster regenerating health is very important. And the idea is to save up for some of the better guns. But in order to survive that long, we're going to want to get some things like traps or barricades. Now, barricades don't actually work that well as barricades, but they do work well for distracting zombies. If a zombie gets close enough to a barricade, it will focus on the barricade instead of you. So you should think of it more like a distraction for the zombies than an actual barricade, because the barricades aren't going to protect you. The zombies can easily slip through or beside them no matter how many you buy. Anyway, each wave, the amount of zombies increases, as one might expect. And eventually you're going to be fighting so many zombies that you're going to be rolling in cash. When you're rolling in cash, you'll finally be able to afford all those cool traps and weapons that will make the game a lot easier for you. Or so you would think. The way the in-game economy works, ammunition is very important. Sometimes zombies drop ammunition, but not often. So you need to buy ammunition between waves. So if you think, just because you bought that really cool assault rifle that kills zombies fast, all your problems are over, no. You still have to buy ammo for that thing, and you might run out of ammo before the next wave is over. Now the upgrade points I mentioned previously, they can be used to upgrade your weapons and traps, like the barricade we bought, or we could buy turrets or some such thing. Using the upgrade points on a gun increases the amount of ammo it can carry. So that makes the guns a lot more valuable, makes them a lot more viable as an actual weapon. I do like that they tried to create a way that you can't easily cheese the game. I appreciate that, and as near as I can tell, there is no way to easily cheese the gameplay. You can't just find a solution, a quick one, using the upgrade system or weapon system. You can't just buy a gun that breaks things. You can't just buy an upgrade that breaks things. They tried pretty hard to balance it, so that way you would always find the game challenging. I think that's to be commended. That means the developer put genuine efforts into making sure the in-game economy and challenge was balanced. instead of just throwing a bunch of weapons in there at random and being like, this is how a zombie shooter works, right? You have stamina, you have health, you have upgrades, you have weapons. They didn't just throw things in willy-nilly. They actually tried to make it work. They tried to balance the game. But the problem with Blood Waves isn't in the game balancing. The game balancing is fine. The weapons are fine. The problem in Blood Waves is that it's so slow. And I don't mean the gameplay or shooting itself is slow. You see, in this game, when you die, you lose all of your progress, and you have to start completely from the start. That's how this one works. You lose the game, you have 1 life, then you have to start all over from wave 1. And the waves don't change. It's the same thing every time. So this past 5 minutes and 30 seconds, you have to do this whole deal every time. Starting with the basic gun and machete, slowly working your way up to a better weapon, and it's just tiresome. Wasting a whole 10 to 30 minutes of your life getting the good stuff, so that way you can get back where you were. Now this would be different if there were more done to encourage replayability. Also, we're going to place some barricades this time. Anyway, this would be different if there were more done to encourage replayability in the game. But I think what they intended to encourage replayability was just, oh, I can do better this time. And I don't think that's enough in this case because it takes so long to get back where you were previously. And it's not like this is a roguelike where things randomly change each time. It's the same game every single time. So when I failed, it was never that I wasn't convinced I could do better. I was convinced I could do better. I knew I could do better. It's just that I didn't want to waste 30 minutes of my life getting to where I was last, so that way I could do better. I get the idea. The idea is you think, oh, maybe if I upgrade my character differently, or maybe if I buy the weapons in a different order, or use this new strategy. The idea is solid, it just takes too long to get back to where you were. And there's not enough incentive. Because what do you get when you get further than you were last time? If you're playing a roguelike, you get to see entirely new things. Depending on the roguelike, you get to see more story or an environment change, or if it's a traditional roguelike, you just get to see, you know, new shit, new enemies that you didn't before. And even if it's not a roguelike, even if things are identical every time, just like in this game, in most games there would still be an environment change, or some kind of story to keep you invested in what's happening, or anything. But it's just the same room every time. There are no persistent upgrades between playthroughs either. Just so you know, you lose everything when you die. And you don't keep anything between playthroughs, not even some sort of secondary currency. So you just really have to start completely over. And the only thing that's meant to keep you playing is the will to do better. And the will to do better can be enough to keep people playing in many instances, but I don't think this game is one of those instances. And the thing is, I'm not sure really how to fix this one without changing the idea behind the game. An easy way to fix it would be to have checkpoints at a certain wave. You know, maybe you reach wave 5 and there's a checkpoint, maybe you reach wave 10 and there's a checkpoint, and you can keep the stuff you got so far. That would be the easiest way to get rid of the fatigue and ensure players would actually want to keep trying to do better. Because losing on wave 10 after starting at wave 5 is a lot better than losing on wave 10 after starting at wave 1. But they clearly didn't want to do that. If they wanted to do that, then they would have, but it was a deliberate choice to start the player from the beginning each time. The only other way I could think to fix this without massively changing the core gameplay would be to make the zombies take less hits and take progressively more hits as it progresses. But the thing is that it already does that. That's already a thing. The zombies start out taking fewer hits and take more hits as the game progresses. It took me a while to realize this, but it is the case. So I really have no idea how you could make this more digestible without changing something big about the game. You can't just ask the developer to make a new environment, because making a new environment would cost a lot of money. Presumably money the developer doesn't have. You can't ask the developer to make new zombie types, because again, making new zombie types would probably cost a lot of money and resources the developer doesn't have, because they have to create unique character models and program the behaviors of those zombies. And it's not as though the zombie types and weapon types are the issue. There's plenty of weapon types, and there's plenty of ways they interact with zombies in a fun fashion. There are some traps that can only be destroyed by certain zombies. Certain zombies interact differently with certain weapons. You know, the game balance and the core gameplay is not awful or any such thing. What's awful is the sheer... I mean, basically it just feels like a job forcing yourself to replay this game. I had to force myself to want to replay it. I had to sit down and say, okay, maybe trying to do better is enough for me to keep playing. I had to force myself to do it. And I don't think that was the intention. I don't think this game was meant for people who feel a strange obligation to play things. I don't feel like that's what this game is for. I feel like it's meant to be fun. I could be wrong. And the worst thing about this game is that there's more effort put into it than most zombie horde survival wave-based games or whatever you want to call it. They put effort into balancing the weapons and creating an in-game economy that encourages genuine choices between weapons by limiting your resources so heavily and ensuring that you constantly have to expend money on more resources, whether actual money or upgrades. The weapons are well balanced, the traps are well balanced, and all have their own strengths and weaknesses and interactions with the zombies. There's more effort put in here than your average survival wave-based zombie game. But it's still kind of worse than your average survival wave-based zombie game because it's just so painful to play. Every time I've died in this game and had to start from the beginning, I've dreaded it. And I not only dreaded it because, you know, I didn't want to waste another 30 minutes of my life getting where I was, but I dreaded it because whenever I died, it was because of something that I absolutely could not have seen coming. Maybe the idea is to memorize this single arena so thoroughly that it feels like an extension of your body, so that way you can't die from cheap shots. But when I died, it was from a cheap shot. I still knew I could do better next time, because I knew which kind of zombie killed me, I knew which situation I was cornered into, and I knew I could avoid it, but I still couldn't see it coming the first time. And the stuff I could avoid didn't really seem it didn't really seem fair. Like, if you back yourself up against a wall, you might still be able to survive, because you can roll sideways to get away from the wall. But if you back yourself up against a barricade, then you kind of get glued to it, as I found out, and then died immediately. I also found out that zombies with bombs in their heads are a one-hit kill. They blow up near you, and then you die. That's it, game over, start from the beginning. And they really like to sneak up from behind. They really like to sneak up from behind and hit you when you least expect it. And there are ways to avoid that. But after you die from it the first time, are you going to want to try again? That's the important thing here. After you die from your first cheap shot, are you going to want to try again, only to die from a cheap shot in a different way? That's it. That's the game. And this right here, this is one of my later tries. This is one of my later tries in the game. Oh, here's an invincibility power-up. This is one of my later tries in the game. I had to force myself to play this long. And at this point, I'm not back to where I lost at last yet. I need you to keep in mind, it's been a whole 15 minutes, and I'm still not back to where I failed last time. And I'm fighting the same zombies I did last time, in the same waves, using the same weaponry. It's just this time I have an idea of how to avoid a certain type of cheap death. That's all I'm coming in with, is the knowledge of how to avoid a certain type of new cheap death. You have to wait so long to get back to where you were. And it doesn't really feel like you're fighting to get back to where you were. It feels like waiting. It feels like you're waiting while pressing buttons on the controller, which is probably not the intended feeling. So as much as I wanted to like Blood Waves, because I like third-person shooters, and they put more effort into the in-game economy and weapons than a lot of other zombie survival games, I can't like it. It's just sludge. You have to like wade through it, and it's painful. But you know, it's on the PS4 now. It used to be PC exclusive. It's just there are better zombie games and they're lower effort, and I hate that. Like Z Killer, it's a better zombie game than this, even though it's a way lower effort. Foreign Legion Multi-Massacre, much better zombie game than this, even though it's lower effort. At least we got the AK-12. It lacks anything that would make you want to replay it. Even traditional arcade games generally have new enemies or environments. You play Donkey Kong, how high can you climb, motherfucker? You know, there's new environments, there's new enemies. The enemies, it's just, there's always a reason to play again. I can't think of a reason to play again with this game. I can't. At least you got to see the turret and the assault rifle before we stop. At least there's that. I wanted to at least get that far before I stopped the video. But you can see it just takes way too long to get to where you were. Just takes too long and it's too dull. But if this looks okay to you, if you're perfectly okay spending 30 minutes of your life getting back to where you died last because of a cheap hit, so you can die from a new kind of cheap hit, then Blood Waves is for you. But I highly recommend you try any of the dozens of other zombie games that are lower effort but still better, which is sad. Some of the zombies have knives now, so they deal more damage. There are also zombies that spit acid, and I mentioned the zombies that have bombs in their heads. Also, the zombies start taking more hits, but I already mentioned that too. You know? I really wanted to like this game, so I'm sad I couldn't. You know, I wanted to enjoy it. Anyway, that's Blood Waves. How high can you get, motherfucker?